11 down, one huge game to go for Ohio State. Number 2 Buckeyes finish off the home slate. That's Zach Boren. I'm Austin Ward. It was a 37-3 win over Minnesota. I always feel of two minds about these games the week before the game, Zach. It's like, how much attention do we really need to pay to a blowout over Minnesota when the biggest game of the year is now here?
When you're playing Minnesota, not much. I know for a fact that Ohio State went out, was very vanilla from what they were showing on the offense and defense side of the ball. And, besides really those seniors that are running out for senior day, which is a huge day for them, if you asked any of those players and any of them said that they weren't looking forward to this next week, they'd be lying to you. That's how it is, especially a team like Minnesota, I know the Buckeyes are happy to get out with a victory, especially the way they did, and were able to get some young guys in late in the third quarter and all the fourth, and most importantly, get out healthy.
I like that part after the game too, where it's like, were you guys thinking about Michigan this week? Were you thinking about the game? And it's like, it was hard to stay focused. And then you ask, like, Ryan Day and Cody Simon were both like asked, did you see any of the Michigan game at noon? Like, did you catch any of that against Maryland? And they're like, yeah, it might have been on. Like, you're trying to get ready to play a Big Ten game. It's like you're a week away from something so close. I think maybe, I don't know. Do you think that contributed to a little bit of the sloppiness in the first half? I mean, the defense was fine. They pitched a shutout, but sometimes that happens. That's human nature.
I could see that. I also think a portion of it is, let's be honest, you're playing a Minnesota team that isn't at the top of the Big Ten ranks by any means, and you could have ran out your second or third string guys and probably beat that Minnesota team. I think a little bit of it was those guys that were playing their last game in the shoe, trying to get them touchdowns, trying to send them out the right way. So there may have been, some forcing of plays when, hey, in this situation, we normally wouldn't run this play, or, hey, Kyle, throw the ball to Cade no matter what on this play. Like, there might have been a little bit of some of that, which contributed to some of the sloppy play on offense. But yeah, listen, come out with 37-3 victory against a Big Ten foe on senior day, and now all the attention turns to the team up north. If you asked Ryan Day on Thursday if he would have went for that, he would have been like 1,000,000%, let's go.
It's kind of funny that the last 2 weeks, you know how badly that the Silver Bullets wanted to hang a shutout on their mantle this year. And then the last 2 weeks, they had good opportunities, and 50-yard field goals both weeks keep them from it. Like, that'll sting a little bit, but it shouldn't take away from an effort. Like 6 total points in the last 2 weeks heading into their game. That's some positive momentum for a defense that we already knew was pretty good.
There's another great opportunity this Saturday. I would love it if we're in Ann Arbor, and this defense pitches a shutout. Come on, we still got another opportunity.
Okay,
and I know that's the way those guys are thinking. It's not just because it was Michigan State and Minnesota. Like, hey, listen, we're going to team up north in their house. Let's go pitch a shutout. Like, that's how, that's the attitude of those guys. That's how I know they're thinking. It doesn't matter how good of an opponent it is. Those guys are saying, we're going to hang a goose egg.
Yeah. What was the best thing that you saw on Saturday, Zach?
Man, there's a couple things that jump out to my mind. Is obviously still the way this defense is playing, right? We've talked about it for how many weeks now? It's probably 11 weeks in a row with how good this defense has been playing, the way that they're running to the football, the way that they're making tackles, just the little things are going a long way. Like, how many times in the past have we talked about missed tackles and missed assignments? We're hardly seeing any of that this year. Guys are flying around, reacting to what they're seeing and making plays when their number's called upon. And so I love the way the defense is playing. I think, they have continued each week to gain so much confidence. And now in the biggest game of the year, maybe the biggest game in the last, call it 5 years for Ohio State, right? You look at it from this standpoint, you can talk about, the Georgia game last year being a massive or monumental game for this program. But throw all that aside, this might be the biggest game in Ryan Day's coaching career at Ohio State. And so the way that this defense is playing, you have to be excited about that. And then you look at the offensive side of the ball, and Travion Henderson, man, we've talked multiple times about early, especially early in season and last year, about how he always tried hitting that home run, that home run run every single time he touched the football. And that may have been contributing to, 0-yard gains or 2-yard gains. And now you see him letting the game come to him. You see him reading blocks, being patient, and then hitting it. And my God, man, the dude has looked absolutely phenomenal since he's come back from his injury against Notre Dame. And 75-yard touchdown run yesterday, the longest of his Ohio State career. Hopefully he continues to take take advantage of what comes his way. And the thing that I love most about that run is it's not like it was just a hole and he hit it and used his speed, right? He made multiple cuts. The home run was not there to start with, right? He used his vision, used his great feet, great footwork that, he's so accustomed to using. And he made multiple cuts, made a person miss, and then took off. That's what I love to see. That's what a true running back, when they hit a home run, that's what it's going to look like.
Those jump cuts that he used up the first touchdown as well, to press that hole and then get outside a little to his left there. And then obviously multiple cuts that you mentioned on the second touchdown. That was like, I don't remember even seeing that part of his game during his freshman year. It feels like there's just more being tapped into by Travion right now.
Yeah, I think Coach Alford's done a great job with him. It's you look at some of the great running backs at Ohio State recently, right? Like Carlos Hyde, Zeke, J.K. Dobbins, like those guys were deadly with their jump cuts, right? And be able to so quickly get back into speed and get downhill again. And that's what you're starting to see Travion Henderson be able to do. And yeah, I mean, I was on the field the first half, standing on the sidelines, and that first touchdown happened right in front of me. And I was just like, oh my God. I remember turning to the side and looking at Jeff Hireman and be like, whoa, like that, who is that? Right? Like
right.
That's a dude. Like that's a hell of a freaking run. And there was a guy that was completely unblocked and just off a jump cut made a miss. Like you haven't seen that with Travion Henderson in the past. Normally in the past, you would see him, hey, if there's any unblocked guy, he's like, oh man, I'm just going to try and lower my shoulder and have that big hit. And now you see him kind of protect himself. Hey, let's make a guy miss in the open field and get in the end zone.
Yeah, you mentioned this, and we're going to talk. We've got weekend kickoff, we've got Roosters, we've got everything this week to get ready for it. So we're going to talk plenty about the stakes for the game. But I think one interesting subplot when you're talking about Ohio State and what they might be able to do offensively in this matchup on Saturday in Ann Arbor, we've never seen this version of Travion Henderson for Ohio State against Michigan 2 years ago, late in that freshman year. Snow, people sick, other things. Travion had the upper body injury in the second half of the year. He was worn down. And last year, you have the foot injury. He doesn't even play. So you talk about a key part of this Ohio State attack and a really dangerous weapon. That's a difference just for Ohio State offensively getting ready for Michigan. That's a big deal. We're going to be talking about Trey all week, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's pretty simple, right? If you're Ryan Day in this offense, you're like, hey, we're going up to Ann Arbor. We need to get about 65 plays, and I would say 20 of those should be getting Travion Henderson with the ball in his hands, whether it be a handoff, whether it be out of the backfield, some of those things. And let's be honest, there should be another probably 15 targets that are going to 18. And I mean, even the way Two played yesterday, man, Emeka, like just the way that he was running his routes, the acceleration with the ball in his hands, it looked like Emeka was back. Like that was exciting to see. And that popped out at me of, oh, here we go. Especially like, you could really see it on the pop pass that he had when he went around the edge. And I don't know if that was the second quarter or third quarter, but
second. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, like this dude's back. Like you saw the acceleration, you saw what he was able to do. And let's not forget, I mean, the way Kate Stover's playing right now, third Ohio State tight end ever in the history to go over 1,000 receiving yards. I mean, unbelievable from that standpoint. So they have some weapons, and I mean, the list goes on and on. We could talk about what I think Ryan Day is going to do with X out of the backfield, and I love that look that they're utilizing X and Chip together back there in a kind of a two-back set, and that's dangerous, and they can do so many different things with that. So when you want to talk about the weapons that this team has going into next weekend, especially that are all healthy, and then you look at the quarterback and you're like, hey, Six, you don't have to win us the game. just facilitate, right? Just get the ball in the playmaker's hands. That's all you have to do. That could be the recipe for a big time victory up in Ann Arbor.
All right, so you have all of those ingredients. Was there anything about the way they were put together on Saturday at all? And maybe there's not. Was there anything that you came away leaving the shoe thinking, ooh, I wanted to see a little bit more here or there to get ready for the game, Zach?
You want to know something? I would say no.
Okay.
I think people are going to be outspoken about the way Kyle looked a little bit and parts of that game, especially in the red zone offense. And that might not even just be Kyle, but obviously the quarterback takes so much of that blame when you get into the red zone, you're not able to finish. Some people might talk about, the inability to finish some of those drives in the end zone, which going against a team, especially on the road, like team up north, you're going to have to finish those in the end zone, right? You can't settle for field goals. So, I think some people are going to point at that, and we could sit here and harp on that and say that's a big issue. But then again, I'm going to go back and say, hey, listen, you're playing Minnesota. You don't want to show too much, right? RD and this staff have been putting pockets, stacking plays, in their pockets of things that they're going to want to do in Ann Arbor this next weekend, and they don't want to show it. So not only, has Ohio State been practicing some of these gadget plays that are going to be completely new, you go back to your bread and butter, right? Like you go back to the super basic things when you're playing Michigan State and Minnesota leading up to this game, because you're not putting in those gadgets for those games. And so I think maybe you see some of those drives stall out when you kind of go to the basic stuff and just stuff isn't there. And hey, Kyle, try and make a throw or put it in a place that no one's catching it, and let's get off the field and kick the field goal. But I wouldn't throw, I wouldn't put too much. I wouldn't put too much into the red zone stuff. It's just like, hey, listen, basic stuff, playing a team that you're not winning a national championship or Big Ten beating that team, right? Like you can run your basic stuff and be fine. So we'll see come Ann Arbor. I know there's going to be some new stuff, and those red zone drives are going to be massively important.
Yeah. Michigan, the number one red zone defense in the country. They haven't had to face a lot of red zone opportunities. So that helps because they've been really good at figuring out what teams are doing and keeping them out of the red zone. I don't know how they were doing it for most of the year, but Maryland found a way to get there and punch a couple in. So it seems like if anybody would be more concerned going into the game on which side, that would probably be the Wolverines. But again, we'll talk about that throughout the week. I did want to have like a live camera on you to get a reaction shot of that decision from Ryan Day right before halftime. Because Bill Landis and I were sitting in the press box like, what the heck is going on here? The play clock is it's gonna get you to halftime, and then you dial up a pass play, slow developing, the protection breaks down, and you almost get your quarterback hurt.
Listen, it was 13-0. I think from that standpoint, I think Ohio State had 2 timeouts left in the half. I think from that standpoint, it's like, hey, can we break a big one and somehow get in the end zone with 2 timeouts and then make it 20-0? And at that point, maybe our starters only have one more series in the second half instead of, the way it ended up playing out. They got out, towards the end of the third quarter. But I think in RD's mind, his perfect world would be, hey, starters get one series, second half, offense is getting the ball to start, go score a touchdown, up 27-0, starters are out the rest of the game. You basically have a whole second half of not playing. So I think that had something to do with it. Maybe a little bit of a too committed to the game plan and too committed to not wanting his guys to play in the second half. Luckily, Kyle came out in the second half, and it didn't seem like that knee injury or ankle injury, whatever it was slowing him down too much. He's in there already, this morning getting treatment. And dude, those juices are going to be flowing this week. My God. I mean, I get juices just thinking about it. I've been up since 5 a.m. drinking coffee, right? Ready for this game already. And so, those guys are going to have their juices flowing and going to be ready. So the adrenaline that they're going to have, he'll be fine come Saturday.
All right. So from somebody who's been through this and gets ready, has been ready for the game. It's Sunday, but we said, players were already talking about it and catching some glimpses on TV of Maryland and Michigan on Saturday before their own game. Like, how quickly does it change? What's the conversation like in the locker room on a Saturday night or a Sunday? Normally, that's a little bit lighter practice and you're recovering when you watch film and then celebrate the champions and all that stuff on Sunday night. Champions, victory meal. Does that stuff go? Is that different for this week? Does it go by the wayside? Like, Ryan Day made a comment after the game. I think when I asked him, he's like, "We're not really going to watch the film of this game. Like, it doesn't really matter." And that's interesting to me because like everyone's an opportunity to evaluate, but it doesn't seem like that's the same for this week.
This week's completely different than any other week. I mean, and in my opinion, it's the best week of the year, by far the best week of the year. And I'm sure things are the same. Granted, my last game was 10 years ago, but I know it's basically the same coaching staff, right? And you walk in on Sunday morning and they've got music blaring. Normally, guys on a normal Sunday are going in, getting a light workout and doing those things, and it's a relaxed kind of recovery type of atmosphere. You walk in on Sunday, every speaker in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center is blaring music, and normally it's Time for War on repeat. And you walk in there Sunday morning, your hair stick up, instead of the kind of dragging ass and, man, I'm beat up and, scheduling my massage for that day, hitting the cold tank and getting the light workout in. You're like ready to play a game again. You go in there and you're like, I'm ready. Let's go. And RD's right. You normally never watch film from the previous week. It's turning your attention to the team up north. I think they still do this, but Sunday night, there's a big dinner, and then the band comes over to the facility and does different things with the team. I know the guys get to march Script Ohio with the band, because when you play, you never get to see Script Ohio. Like, that's one of the things that's really cool going back as a fan, is seeing Script Ohio and just what a tradition that is. And so when you get to play the instrument or whatever it is for the band member and march with them and do Script Ohio, that's really cool. It's just kind of a fun night to set the tone for the rest of the week. And then, Monday's normally, quote unquote, your off day, and guys are coming in and watching film here and there on a normal week. On Monday of Team Up North week, it's like everyone's in, right? You're getting a hard workout in. You're doing everything you can to prepare. And then as the week goes on, let's be honest, it's one of the best weeks too, because it's Thanksgiving, right? And Thanksgiving comes around, it's just like there's like a change in the air, right? You're out on the practice field, and it's like that crisp air is still there, and you just know what's at stake for that week. And obviously the coaches' families are around. It's just if there's any week that brings a team together, it's the Team Up North rivalry week, because everyone's on the same page. Everyone is so dialed in and focused that, I hate to say, you normally don't have that every week. Even a big game against like Penn State, people are dealing with, families coming in town, or, dealing with other stuff on, like, Team Up North week. It's like, let's go. It's wartime, right? Like, we take the ranks from out here and we bring them in, and the ranks get super tight. And it's like, hey, this is the last regular season game. This is the go to win a Big Ten championship game. And how many times has this game come down to winning a Big Ten championship? And so the stakes are super high, especially this year more than any other. Oh my God, I wish I was in the facility this week. This might be the most hyped rivalry game of the greatest rivalry in all of sports, right? This might be the most hyped week that we have ever seen in this rivalry. So those guys, it's going to take that week that's already amplified times 100 from any normal week and amplify it even more, which is going to be so exciting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it throughout the week. Weekend kickoff, probably more on Buckeye Q, everything else throughout the week. When you and I are talking, like, I do agree. I think this might be, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm not trying to be a prisoner of the moment that it's because it's this one or give it any extra hype. But I think the stakes and the impact for both head coaches and what's happened in the last couple of years, college football playoff, Big Ten East, like, this might be the highest stakes. I know there's been a number 1 versus number 2 game, in 2006, but I think this might be the most important game in the history of the game. Like, I agree with you because it's a referendum. Like, Ryan Day's lost the last two. He didn't have the opportunity in 2020. You have the cheating scandal. If Harbaugh can't win after all that stuff is exposed, like, that taints his entire legacy at Michigan and overshadows the previous two wins. Like, I mean, it is all wrapped up into this one package, and like Saturday at noon is going to be insane. Like, it's the atmosphere in the big house is always different, it feels like to me, because it starts pregame and that. So once you get to the game, you've done this, Zach, like the buses go to the same place, the tunnel, you both come out the same tunnel, your locker rooms are right against each other. Like, this stuff starts earlier in the big house than it does in the Horseshoe. And like, it feels dangerous up there. I don't, maybe it's because I have like the podcast on my shirt and they can see scarlet and gray, but it's weird up there.
The tunnel's nasty. I mean, really nasty, you know, and I know there was it last year with Team
Michigan
North
State.
and Michigan State, right?
Yep.
I'm actually shocked that it hasn't happened more, you know, and you know, I hate to admit this, you know, my in-laws on that side of the family are Team Up North people and Team Up North supporters, and it's like they were shocked that this happened when it happened last year, and I'm looking at them like, Team Up North fans, are you that naive? A Team Up North administration, are you that naive? Like, this is the worst setup in all of college football from a stadium standpoint, having teams come out literally. I don't think people realize the locker room doors are maybe 20 feet apart. Like, maybe 20 feet apart.
Feels less than that when you're
correct.
in it.
And I'm saying maybe, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing separating you are maybe one or two cops, security guards, and then your string staff. Like, that's it. And you guys are coming out at the same time. You guys in pre-games are coming out and in at the same time. Like, it's asinine that they have this set up and have not changed it. And I understand the traditions of, you know, the big house and all that stuff, but my God, like, people don't realize how I mean, it's just like an atomic bomb that you're just waiting to pull the trigger and let it go off, right? You don't know when it's going to blow, and that's how it is. But to your point too, 2006 was number one versus number two, and what was at stake then was massive, because I think it was the first time ever it was number one versus number two. But the teams hated each other because of the rivalry, right? Like, it's Ohio State, Team Up North, like, you're just taught to hate one another throughout the year. This year, and I don't, you know, I don't want to put words in, obviously, the Ohio State team's mouth, and I'm sure the Team Up North feels the same way. They actually hate each other. Like, they legit hate each other. It's not Ohio State, Michigan now. That's not what this is about. Like, that rivalry already brings things to here. Like, these coaching staffs hate each other. Yep. These players hate each other. Like, I don't think people realize how much hate is now on it. Like, it used to be one of those things where, and I don't want to get long-winded, but this rivalry just gets me amped up. It used to be one of those things you respect the hell out of the other team, but you hate them, right? It's like you respect them so much, but you just want to beat the out of them on that day. Now, you don't even respect them. Like, now these teams hate each other and want to beat the hell out of one another. Like, that's why I'm saying you can't even compare this to 2006, because what was at stake then is the same thing that's at stake now, but these head coaches hate each other. The assistant coaches hate each other when they recruit against one another. Now you see all these players that, you know, recruiting and all these camps have gotten blown up. Now you've got social media where these players are talking to each other 365 days out of the year on Twitter, right? Like, you've got all these things that are adding layers to this rivalry, and everything's gonna come down to the kickoff at noon on Saturday. And yeah, hopefully things don't go sideways before noon, because it very well could. And if you're a Michigan fan and want to say that that's not a possibility, and if anything happens, it's on the away football team, complete bogus. It is. Yeah, it's almost like, you know, and I'll leave it at this. It's almost like Team Up North and that administration, like, has it funneled this way, because it's like they want to, you ever have like a caged lion or tiger and like you hang meat outside the cage and it starts going crazy? Like that's what they do. They tee up the away football team to just try and like bait them into little stuff with the way that their locker room is set up, the way that they have the away team come out, like it's scheduled to the point where the away team gets the worst part of it. Like Team Up North comes afterwards, so the entire away team has to go out while the home locker room doors are open and those guys are barking at them. So it's like Team Up North just baits the away team in that tunnel to just do something stupid.
Right. Whew. All right. Well, I'm going to take a page out of Ryan Day's book. We're not doing 3 and out. We're not going to talk any more about Minnesota. You've already got us 2 juiced up on a Sunday Blitz to get ready for Saturday in the game. So let's call it there. Let's get ready. Huge week. We got everything that you've come to expect from coverage. Even though it's Thanksgiving, we're still going to do it all. We're still going to have weekend kickoff. Zach and Bobby will be back with May Burnham and Bill to do that this week. Brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems. We're still going to do Buck IQ. We're still going to have the podcast daily. We're still going to be at Roosters. Going to have pregame keys on Saturday. I mean, I'm ready. This is, even though we want to take some time as everybody on Thanksgiving, spend it with your family, we're building towards Saturday at noon. This is what those previous 11 games and every bit of the offseason was built for Ohio State, including us on the media side. We're ready for
no doubt. I'm ready. I'm ready. Put me in. I'm ready.
I know. I'm ready. I'm ready to do something. Cover the game. I can't play in it. I'll cover the game, but I'm ready for that too. Like this is an exciting time. This is a huge game. It doesn't get any bigger, and we're going to talk about it all week long, getting ready for Saturday at noon in the Big House. He is Zach Boren. I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us so much on Sunday Blitz. We'll talk to you later.